ESN TV coverage of the 12th Annual Consortium for School Networking Conference is sponsored by Smart Technologies, N Computing, and CCC Video on Demand, in cooperation with Cable in the Classroom and Consortium for School Networking.
While research suggests 3 in 10 schools now have interactive whiteboards in at least some classrooms, there's some controversy about whether the devices truly revolutionize instruction. As part of CoSN's focus on the value of educational technology, the organization convened a roundtable discussion at its annual conference in San Francisco, in which participants debated whether interactive whiteboards are worth the investment. Doug Brown is among those who believe they are.
Overall, the research, and we've done a considerable amount of research on this, identified that in terms of some of the use of the whiteboards, pace of lessons was improving, motivation was improving, student engagement was improving, and teacher preparation was improving. And that goes back to my earlier point. One of the things that came out was the fact that teachers began to share their practice more. They were actually producing material for the whiteboard and sharing it with whoever it was they were working with. So there was a sort of peer review going on which improved the quality of what everybody was doing. A total side effect that we weren't actually expecting, but something that was really quite sort of significant.
Brown is the head of Learning Technologies for the UK's Department of Education and Skills, which has invested $100 million in electronic whiteboards and other technologies. As a result, more than half of all Britain's classrooms now have the devices. And though teachers have found them to be user-friendly, not all are yet using the boards to their full potential, he acknowledges.
If you look at some of the activity in the UK, you will find some appalling teaching using whiteboards. All they are used for is electronic blackboards, and that's a real issue. This is not about the technology, it is actually about the teaching. And the findings we have all through this is it really depends on the teachers, and it really depends on the teaching. But interactive whiteboards can be transformative, and standards can actually rise as a result.
This eSchool News report from the 12th Annual CoSN Conference will continue after this message.
The interactive whiteboard is immediately impressive. They have found an increase in student participation, and that is also translated into higher test scores. Synchronize is a classroom management product that runs on the laptops of the students as well as the teacher. Synchronize allows that teacher to effectively manage the students in a one-to-one environment. Bridget is our conferencing software. Bridget really becomes a very valuable tool for delivering online learning. The Centio student response system allows the teachers to present questions to students and allow them to respond and answer in their own way. The benefit of being able to go to one solution provider to get this seamless integration of all the products working together in that environment.
Count Bailey Mitchell is another whiteboard supporter. Mitchell's district, the Forsyth County Schools in Georgia, made a $5.4 million investment to install the devices in every instructional space.
You know, I'd heard about the boards going in, but hadn't paid a lot of attention to it until our instructional technology specialist realized my inattention and dragged me out there one day and said, you know, I could probably talk to you about it all day, but I really need to have you in a room with students with the whiteboard on. And very clearly and very quickly, I saw student engagement like I had not seen with other technologies that we deployed. We had these discussions about, well, what would be appropriate for whiteboards if we could only put a few in? Would it be a specific subject area or grade level where they would be most effective? And our finding is that it doesn't matter. They aren't grade level specific in any way. It's completely applicable in the kindergarten classroom as it is with a 12th grade classroom. We found that it was not subject area specific. The adoption across the board wasn't subject area specific. There was no one particular area that adopted quicker than the other. And the thing that was most amazing was the fact that when students came back to school, they were probably our biggest arm of implementation because they took immediate ownership in the fact that we had changed the classroom. You know, finally, as one student said, you know, you've got something that'll actually maintain my attention that I can interact with.
Bob Moore of the Blue Valley School District in Kansas is in the other camp. Blue Valley considered installing boards in 1,000 classrooms, but is now holding on to its $4 million and is looking at other ways to spend this money to get more bang for its buck.
At least as I look at the research, and that the value proposition is somewhat inconclusive. In fact, I would say not somewhat inconclusive. The value proposition is actually inconclusive as to interactive whiteboards. And we had a technology advisory committee that was filled with parents and board members and teachers and administrators who were very excited about the possibility of putting interactive whiteboards in every classroom in the district. And because a few schools had purchased them with some of their own funds, they had used parent club funds to purchase them and other kinds of funds. And so they were really excited because they were hearing these really exciting things about it. So I thought what I would do, trying to be neutral, a neutral chair of the committee, I called one of our principals who I knew had invested in interactive whiteboards in their school, in his school, and said, I'd like you to send your absolute best teacher that you have, who's you think is just the most outstanding teacher as far as using interactive whiteboards. And I'd like you to have them come up, and you come up with him or her to the technology advisory committee. We'll put a board up in the committee room with the projector. So the setup is we'll mimic this classroom situation for this teacher, and we'd like for that teacher to take us through a lesson. We'd like for them to show us how they use an interactive whiteboard in their classroom. And so this teacher went through about a 30-minute different kinds of demonstrations and lessons in terms of how they use interactive whiteboards. And there were two comments that came out of that particular session that I thought were very telling and very quickly turned our committee's thinking in terms of use of interactive whiteboards. A board member asked the parent, or asked the teacher, what's really the best thing about using interactive whiteboard in your classroom? And the teacher said, what I really like about it, it allows me to do all these great things I've always been doing, but I'm a lot more efficient. And then after and this will make a connection here in just a moment. After the teacher left and the principal left, and I said, okay, now we don't have to be nice anymore. We're on our committee. Let's just talk very bluntly about what we saw. And the reaction of parents on the committee was what they thought is that what they saw was, frankly, in their term, a glorified use of transparency technology.
Mitchell's response?
We typically talk about adults in a project like this. We're talking about teachers, and in Forsyth, we very quickly saw that, obviously this would be a great opportunity for the classroom if we could get these systems installed, but our focus was on the students. And I'll tell you how this came to be. It was a $5.4 million investment for us, and the presenter to the board for the board item was a second grader. And we had the board set up, and so she proceeded to talk to the board about this Lewis and Clark expedition project that she was working on, and then she turned her attention to the board, and she was small enough that the board was much taller than her, so she had a stool that she would bounce up and down on, and it was on wheels. And she then crafted for the board this project she had been working on for the Lewis and Clark expedition. And then I got up and said, well, it's $5.4 million. And they says, whatever the second grader wants. And I think
NComputing's mission is to get a computing station in front of every student at every school. Our technology works by installing an NComputing PCI card into a normal desktop PC. You then take a simple networking cable and connect it to an end station box. All you have to do then is install our software, a monitor, mouse, and keyboard, and you are ready to go. With the NComputing stations, you can expand one host by up to 7 stations. This means that effectively you are turning one PC into the equivalent of 7 PCs for a fraction of the cost of buying a new PC.